Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the SomeBenLongDudeShow. I am some dude named Ben Long, and this is my show. Today I'm going to talk about open tunings or alternate tunings. Uh, so let's start off at the top with what they are. A lot of people are like, well, what does that mean? If you're just learning guitar, that may be a whole new thing for you. So I'll break it down real quick. Normally, when you're tuning your guitar, you tune them to the letters E, A, D, G, B, and E. And that's called standard tuning. That's what most people learn to play guitar on. But there's other ways you can tune your guitar. It doesn't have to be to those letters. Now, the first one that most people learn, and some people actually learn guitar this way, is what's called drop D tuning. And all that means is you take that top E string and you lower it down, you tune it down to a D. And that does a couple things for you. But there's all sorts of different options that you can use for alternate tuning. Some other popular ones, you have the drop D, like I mentioned. Open E is a popular one. There's one called Dadgad, which is Dadgad. And then the other one that's similar to that is Dad Fad, where it's Dadfad, and that's a D minor open tuning. So there's that. There's all sorts of different kinds of open tunings that you can do, done in a wide range of different types of music. And there's a few reasons why you would do something like that. The most common one is to give yourself some easy power chords, and it makes for nice sort of riffing around on it. When you have like drop D tuning, is you can play your power chords with one finger, and then you can it opens up a lot of possibilities for riffs. But it does a whole bunch of other things as well, depending on the tuning. You can go with some people do it because when you get playing in drop D tuning, it does bring out different style in people. So it could be to try and get that style. It could be to allow you to hit other notes. If you want to have the note lower than your E, in standard tuning, you don't have that as an option. When you tune down to drop D, that becomes an option. Certain chord voicings are only possible in certain styles. So if you have a specific chord voicing you want to have at some point in the song, you may need to change your tuning to get that chord voicing to be possible. Another popular one is to have drone notes, so that they'll be able to play their stuff moving around on the top strings maybe and have the lower strings open, or vice versa. There's lots of popular examples from culture of that in the last 20, 30 years of music. But I mean, it's not even just a new thing. Like the Rolling Stones famously used some alternate tunings in some of their songs as well. The other one that's I heard talked about more in the last 10 years is forced unfamiliarity. And that would be you're taking your guitar that you've become familiar with, and you may have set things that you go to all the time. So by forcing yourself to be playing in a different tuning, you've become unfamiliar with your instrument. Your regular chord shapes, your regular movements don't do the same things they always do. So you can do your same physical habits and get a different result, or it'll force you to think outside of your regular habits and get your creative juices flowing that way. So there's all sorts of reasons. Now, I've recently come up with two of my own tunings that I've not heard of before. I'm sure someone's tuned their guitar like this before, but I've just never heard of them that way. So with all that preamble said, I'll get to my tunings and I'll talk about why I want them. So the first tuning is what I have set up on this guitar currently, and I'm not sure what I want to call it yet. I might call it Natural Triads. I might call it the Snowman tuning. That's kind of my favorite one. A minor 11 tuning, because technically the strings make an A minor 11. But the reason for the Snowman tuning is that it's tuned so that if you were just playing open strum like this, it would actually just stack up on a staff like a snowman, as your chords do if you're stacking a naturally voiced chord. And that's really cool to me. That was the main reason, is I wanted to be able to get move around natural triads on a guitar in easy fashion, which is not as easy on a standard tuning guitar. So I thought it'd be a cool thing to try out and kind of force myself into some different stuff. But the nicest part of it is that it gives you those stacked triads, just really clean and naturally. So the way I tune this guitar is I start with an A, C, E, G, B, and then I kept the high E. Now the reason the E doesn't follow that thirds pattern the way the rest of the strings do is I just wanted to leave the bottom 3 strings the same relative pitches, well in this case the same exact pitches as a standard tuning the GBE, which you find on standard, because I wanted to be able to keep sort of that shape. Like the shape for just kind of noodling around stuff, I wanted to keep it there. I don't know if I'll ever use this tuning live. I don't currently have a purpose, but I do have a purpose for it in the studio. It's really fun, and it really helps songs to add just a piano stacked triad here, like just kind of moving the triad around on the keyboard, and it helps kind of fill up the sound. It helps define the chord and just kind of adds a neat texture to guitar playing that's not naturally there. So I wanted to be able to add that, but instead of using a piano or a synth instrument be able to do it with a guitar. So there's actually a lot of really cool stuff this tuning allows for. I'll just do a little playthrough of some chords just to kind of, so you can hear. So as you may have noticed if you're watching my hand closely, I actually changed strings and kept the same chord progression going. The thing about this tuning specifically is it really narrows your range of notes that you have at your disposal, because you're tuning in thirds instead of the tuning in fourths like you normally would on a guitar. What that also means is you want to make sure that you're using the right gauge strings. They don't make sets for this tuning or for my other tuning. So you have to kind of custom pick out your strings for it. If you were to try either of these tunings with just a standard gauge of strings, you would either have a floppy mess or you would break a guitar. You'd break strings, you could have, the bridge pull out, you could have the neck bend, all sorts of bad stuff can happen if you don't use the right gauge of strings. If you are not capable of figuring it out yourself, ask a knowledgeable music store person and just try to explain what I'm explaining now. I don't know, it may not make sense. You can always ask me in the comments or shoot me a message and I'll happily answer. I don't have sets figured out completely yet. I have a box of random strings at home, so I just kind of figured out some approximations of what's probably good, but I'm not completely happy with them, so I can give you the best answer I have at the time that you ask me. Now, just quickly before I move on to the other tuning, I want to talk about this guitar briefly also. I refinished it in the process of building a kit guitar that I'll do a video on later. But this was a Fender Blacktop Telecaster. As you can see, it's missing some of the electronics. I ripped out the pickups. Right now it's just a wide range style humbucker made by Guitar Fetish. I really like their stuff and it's really priced well, so it's great that way. I also have just the volume knob here in the electronics controls, but I'd stripped it right down. I'd finished it a different color, green, so if any of you who know me have seen me playing a green Telecaster that was just spray painted real ugly and it was green, this is actually that same one, refinished. I stripped it again, refinished it in this really nice blue because I had some different colors around and I wanted to try stuff. On the back, I made it one of those, I don't even know what to call it, those greenish blues. And the really light colors there. I'm a big fan of that color. The job here that I did with the thing looks pretty cool, but when you look it up close, I really didn't do a good job. So I might redo it or just leave it because this guitar has always just kind of been my rare one. And I just like doing weird stuff with it. Big fan of it. And I don't know if you can see him. My cat. He's just off the camera there, but he's meowing. So if you hear a cat, that's where he is. And I'm going to change guitars now. So this guitar is a Fender TC90. I've talked briefly about it. It's a bit of an oddball too. Fender made it for a couple years. P90s. It's a Telecaster shaped body with an extra cutaway at the top. Semi-hollow. The JA90 that I did the full review on is the one I talked about this in because that guitar is based off this guitar with some modifications to make it what it is. But this one is its own thing. I really like it. It's the oldest guitar that, not the oldest guitar, it's the guitar I've owned the longest. And I'll probably always own it. It's a special one to me. So anyway, this next tuning that I did was the last one was I was tuning in thirds, alternating minor and major thirds to give me the triads. This one is tuning fifths, which in reverse of what the other one did, this one elongates your scale and gives you more notes. So again, you need to be careful with the string tension you're using because the top string is tuned down to C. The bottom string is tuned up to F sharp. So it really is a weird combination. Where the other one, everything was kind of sucked in. This one, everything's expanded. So the whole tuning is, and you can vary it. Just the idea of this one was to just get the fifths. The other one was also just to get the thirds. So if you're flat or sharp, semitone or a tone or wherever you want to sit it doesn't ruin the idea. It's just about having the actual chord shapes. So this one tuning in fifths is C, G, D, A, C sharp, F sharp. Now, the bottom three, again, I kept in that same relative pitch. So you can have those sort of your noodly shapes that you used to in standard or drop D tuning are still playable here. Now, they don't match up the exact same way you would, so you have to refine your places, but it keeps the same way. So the reason this one came up is a very similar one to the other one is I wanted someone that can help sort of add some fullness to songs, give a deeper guitar tone in there without just kind of giving a standard drop D thing. Because with drop D, you get if you do a 3-string power chord where you're just holding down the 3 notes, that's cool, but you can do power chords easily with the regular tuning. I wanted something a little different. So I wanted something where I could get that fifth thing, but I also wanted to be able to reach the third on top. So you can reach either your minor third or your major third, which is just kind of a neat thing to add in there to kind of, again, fill out the chord, help define it a bit more, give it, I don't know, a little oomph to the sound. Recently recording a song we recorded in my one band Long Nines is in C sharp, so I used the drop C sharp tuning on it, and I just used regular drop C sharp. So with this one, I thought, this would give me an opportunity to kind of do the same thing, but add a little variance, a little extra texture, without losing that heaviness and power that using a drop D tuning would give you. So I'll just do a couple play along things on this. Oh, the other nice thing with this is if you're doing just 2-string power chords, is starting with your root notes being on the top 3 strings, you actually just do the one finger thing where you hold down 2 strings on the same fret space. It's neat. I've enjoyed playing around with this one a lot. And again, like the other one, I can't see an actual real life implication unless I come up with a specific riff with it. It'll never be like, let's try playing all these songs in my tuning in fifths tuning or my tuning in thirds. I can't see that ever happening. But recording, they're going to be super useful in just kind of filling out songs, or even if there's not like a piano song that doesn't emphasized guitar, I can use one of these to just kind of help fill things in without having to, with giving just a little variance from a normal guitar sound. It forces you to do extra different stuff. Yeah, it's just kind of for difference. As you, anyone who knows me knows, I'm not short on guitars, so to keep, one in each of these alternate tunings just to try weird things is something I can do. It's a little harder if you only have a couple guitars. To keep ones in tunings like these where you have to have different sets of strings on it may not make sense. But if you have the guitars, why not, right? So anyway, yeah, here's a couple things with this tuning. So yeah, as you see there, nothing groundbreaking or revolutionary sounding with either of them, but just gives you a little variance off of what you'd get with normal guitar tunings, force you sight outside your comfort box, and yeah, just kind of fun things that I like to do and think about. These actually started off as a thought process where I was just like, oh, I wonder if I could make a tuning that would just be triads, because I was teaching triads in lessons one day. Anyway, that is all that I have to say today.